Good morning, Clipper Nation. This week on the Clip Service podcast, lot to cover, both around the league and in the Clipper sphere. Uh, some big games from some of the league's best over the last week. We're going to cover that, some Twitter beef, a couple other things, and then we want to talk about our very own Los Angeles Clippers starting the Grammy Trip off right. With a win against the Toronto Raptors and a win against the Boston Celtics yesterday, with what was probably the best win of the season overall, just considering what was at stake and who we were playing and how we got it done. So a lot to cover this week. We got a great show for you coming up. So without further ado, let's make it happen.
What's up, Clipper Nation? And welcome to the Clip Service Podcast. Hope you guys are having a great weekend. Please make sure to check us out on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Deezer, Amazon Music, YouTube, and you can even find us on Twitter and Instagram at Clip Service Pod. Today is just me and Nick. Let's just get right into
Old
it.
faithful. All right, let's make it happen. What's going on, guys? Welcome to the Clip Service Podcast. As Rolla said, we got the original duo here once again, and we're going to break down the multitude of things that have been going on, starting off with our What's Going On segment, where we cover a little bit of the happenings, the hot topics, all that going on throughout the league outside of the Clipper sphere. The first thing that I wanted to touch on was some like a polarizing discussion. It's always going to be a polarizing discussion. The GOAT conversation. Is it LeBron? Is it MJ? Is it, whoever else, this, that, and the third? Kevin Durant threw his hat in the ring. Rolla, do you want to talk a little bit about that? That discussion?
Of course.
Yeah.
So the issue is Kevin Durant has never been seen as, even a top 5 player. We all know he's,
all time
probably one of the best shooters, scorers of all time. Dude is 7 foot, can handle the ball, can make plays, can shoot at anywhere on the floor, deep threes, pull up threes, corner threes, mid range. He's a lethal assassin, easy money sniper.
Easy money sniper.
But
I was just about to say.
The issue is he isn't elite at every part of the game. When you look at the GOATs, and what Kevin Durant said was, he said that he didn't understand why he wasn't part of the GOAT conversation, and then everyone started talking about it, and people are it's almost laughable for him to even put himself in the GOAT conversation, because the number one thing, or the number one requirement to be a part of that conversation, is you have to win championships. You have to win championships, being the number one option and being the number one leader, it being your team. And he could not do that before going to a 73-9 Warriors team that was one game away from winning the championship. And then after he left that team, he still has not won a championship, being the number one guy on a team created for him, basically. So I guess my opinion on that, and I'm just a regular dude living in my small as 1-bedroom apartment. Like, I can't talk on
your voice matters,
Rolla.
Rolla. Your voice matters.
No, it truly doesn't. Even though I'm right most of the time about basketball takes, it doesn't matter in the grand scheme of thing in the basketball world, because my level of understanding basketball is not at that of Kevin Durant. But as a fan and as someone who watches basketball all the time, anyone could tell that he is just not on the level of someone like Steph Curry, of someone like LeBron James, of someone like Michael Jordan, because he doesn't have those attributes that makes him a GOAT conversation type player. He doesn't, Like, he hasn't won when it really comes down to it. He'll score 50 points, he'll score whatever, but he won't do what he needs to do to get to that level of being the guy that can take you to the championship, can take you to the finals and win a championship. But that's mainly how I feel. I don't think Kevin
Well,
Durant
yeah,
will ever be, even if he wins a championship this year or next year, I don't think he'll ever be in the GOAT conversation because of the reason why he went to the Warriors.
yeah. I mean, that's fair. I think that's the thing that we have to realize with this topic is there's not really uh, a right answer. Everything is subjective. There's so many things to consider. It's like more just who do you feel is the GOAT, or who do you feel is the greatest of all time. I think
Mm.
that for me, like he's not my greatest of all time in my eyes. He's a fantastic player. I think he's probably the greatest scorer of all time. He's up there with Kareem and some of the greatest scorers to ever play. I think at one point James Harden was up there as well. Just we're talking about pure offensive prowess and scoring, but I think for me it's most the biggest factor in deciding that is what impact do you have on the game, like the scope of the
Yeah,
impact you have on the game off the court too,
exactly.
because you look at the two people that are
Oh,
typically in
off
that
the court.
conversation, well, off the court as well, or just the
Interesting.
game as a whole, like you look at the two people that are talked about the most in that conversation, it would be LeBron and Michael Jordan. um, Both of those guys have so much more of a tangible grasp on the way that the game is played as a whole. And with MJ, he was such a big cultural figure at the time. With the shoe, the Jordan shoes, and I want to be like Mike, and he was just such a he was the biggest figure probably in the world um, for a while. Everybody wanted to be like Mike. He couldn't sneeze without a reporter being there to ask him how it was. He was huge, and aside from being the most dominant figure on the court,
Hmm.
in most of the time that he played. And then I think with LeBron, you kind of have the same thing. LeBron is more. LeBron has leaned heavier into the media and the spotlight, as opposed to Jordan, where I think Jordan was kind of just it was thrust upon him. He's getting cast in movies, Space Jam. He's getting the shoe deal and stuff like that, and it kind of just happened. With LeBron, LeBron was kind of like you know from the jump, he was the one. Like before he
The
even touched an
chosen
NBA
one.
court. Yeah, exactly. Before he even touched an NBA court, people were saying that if he's not doesn't end up being the greatest player of all time, it'll be a failure. And this is when this dude's in high
Insane
school,
pressure.
and he leaned into it. LeBron is a very marketable guy. So is MJ, but you can tell that LeBron, he's actively. I think that's part of the reason why he chose the Lakers too, to further his brand, and it's a great business
Hmm.
move. And he's had a Space Jam movie, or Space Jam remake, or whatever you want to call it, since then. He has his own production company and stuff like that. So, and then also his philanthropic philanthropic ventures. He's opening up his own school, and stuff
In
like that.
LA?
So no, in Akron, I think. Then
Oh yeah, the I
he
Promise school? Yeah.
yes, yes. So I think it's the way that you not only alter the game on the floor, but alter the game off the floor. I think that there's a difference between the greatest player of all time and just the best player strictly from a basketball standpoint, from a talent standpoint. I think Kevin Durant is certainly in the conversation if we're talking about just a player that was built to play basketball, just a lethal scorer,
Hmm.
unguardable. He's fantastic, and he's in the conversation as one of the best to ever play. But to me, it's between those two, and my goat is still MJ, just because of the cultural impact that he had at the time. I know Roll is probably going to
Let's
disagree
not
with
get
me
into
there.
this. Let's not get into
Yeah,
this.
we'll run over time if we do. But one thing, actually, two quick things that I want to touch on this topic before we move on.
Hmm.
I think part of the reason why Steph is closer to those two in terms of the greatest of all time is for that reason. Steph had such a huge impact on the way that basketball is played.
He completely
You
changed the
know,
game.
he evolved the game to a point where the 3-point shot, particularly from your backcourt, is a staple. You really can't be a guard a shooting guard or a point guard in this NBA without the ability to shoot nowadays. Or if you do,
Paul
you
George
better
said
have
that on his
shoot.
podcast.
Yeah, you better have shooting all around you. What did Paul George say again? I can't
He
remember.
said there was a conversation on his podcast on if NBA players could play in the NFL and if NFL players could play in the NBA. And Paul George
That's
said
right.
that
Yeah.
NFL players cannot play in the NBA because they can't shoot. And he
Yeah.
was like, shooting is everything. If you can't shoot, we won't guard you. And
Yeah.
if you don't get guarded and you're taking open shots and we're blocking the paint and you're bricking open shots, like you can't play in the NBA. You have zero value basically. And that all
Right.
stems from Steph Curry, which is kind of crazy to
Yeah.
think.
Totally. That Warriors team in general was just probably the most influential, if not one of the most influential, then the most influential team, just in terms of how the NBA followed and how the NBA adapted after them, just with
I
3-point
mean,
shot. But
they were statistically the best team of all time, dude. With
yeah, no, I mean,
with their wins losses
they're
in that season, which is kind of crazy
yeah.
to think.
It is, but it's they were so successful and they had a formula that worked and they were unguardable. Like when you went and played that Warriors team, any variation of that Warriors team when they were in their prime, it almost just felt inevitable. They were going to beat you, and their shots counted for more points than your shots did, and
Yeah.
it's just that's the way that it worked. But one last thing I wanted to talk about in this conversation is there is a Twitter figure throughout the Clipper sphere, Jacob the Clipper, very polarizing figure in the Clipper universe. I'm going to keep my opinions to myself on this one, but he had something to say about this the KD thing, where KD felt like he should be in the conversation. And Jacob the Clipper kind of basically reached out or added KD and said, would MJ be the GOAT in the GOAT combo if he left the Bulls in 1990 and joined the Bad Boy Pistons, or would LeBron be in the conversation if he left the Cavs and joined the Big Three of the Celtics in 2010? He was basically getting his hot take off, and Kevin Durant actually clapped back and said, I can sit at any table at any time and talk basketball comfortably with anybody that has played the game, but Jacob the Clipper said I couldn't. Nobody knows you, bro. Move around. You have no credentials in my world. So
Facts.
that was kind of crazy to see. Honestly, I'm with KD on this one.
It's
I
true.
think that we can all have our opinions, but Kevin Durant plays basketball for a living. He understands the
Yeah.
game that in a way that none of
So
us do.
beyond. Yeah.
And this isn't the first time that this Twitter user. I'm not gonna spend too much time hating on Jacob the Clipper, but that's not the first time that this Twitter user has gotten his hot takes off. He's, like I said, he's a very polarizing figure in the Clipper Twitter universe. And I just thought it was funny that a professional NBA player clapped back at one of our own. So that was funny to see. Shouts out KD. Shouts out Jacob the Clipper. So so that was a fun day on Twitter. But yeah, it's the bottom line. There's never going to be a right answer for this, but I think that hot takes can go too far sometimes, and sometimes
I don't
NBA
think
players
so.
will see that and but what I'm saying is sometimes NBA players will see that and they're going to clap back, like
Of course.
and these guys know more about the game than we do. So
Oh yeah. I agree with KD. He it's like being in the top 0.0001% of your field, and then you have some random dude telling you what you know. It's like, who are you to tell me what what I'm saying is wrong? I'm the best in my game. Like,
yeah,
you're just a regular dude, And that's
yeah,
why I said, like, my opinion doesn't really matter. Like, I can say, oh, KD could never be in the GOAT conversation, but what I say doesn't hold any weight, because no one who actually is in that field cares about what I'm saying about KD,
well, it's when it becomes like an objective, like you're wrong, this is right. That's why Kevin Durant clapped back, because
Mm-hmm.
it's all subjective. Everybody is entitled to their own opinion, but when you start saying there's no way that you're in this conversation because of this and this,
Right.
he's going to clap back, and he did. Kevin Durant's very active on Twitter,
Very.
and that made for an interesting morning in the Twitter world.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, moving on. One other thing that loosely pertains to the Clippers, Adrian Griffin was fired kind of on the spot by the Milwaukee Bucks in his first season coaching the team. I think at the time the Bucks had like a 30-12 or 30-13 record, something like that. Like they weren't playing bad. But bottom line, Adrian Griffin is fired, and less than 30 minutes go by, and we already hear talks about the Bucks reaching out to Doc Rivers, who started this season back in the commentator booth, a place that he started before he was a coach. And I thought that he was doing a very good job this season in that role. But looks like he is now the head coach of the Milwaukee Bucks, and I think that he's going to start, in the next day or two, if he hasn't already. I didn't watch the last game that they had, but yeah, another team is trying out the Glenn Rivers experiment. What impact do you think that this has on the Milwaukee Bucks? Roland and I feel pretty strongly about Doc Rivers as a coach. He's a fantastic human being.
Of course,
Just a great guy, but as a coach, yeah, intelligent. He's an activist in a lot of ways. Yeah. But as a coach, I think that my personal take, and I'm sure Rolla shares this, is his best coaching days are behind him. I think overall his career is pretty underrated. He had some fantastic years as a coach, both with the Celtics, with the Magic, and with the Clippers. But I think that, the proof is in the pudding. He was at the helm of too many collapses. There were glaring issues that he had as a coach, and some of his teams, faltered for it. What do you think that this means for the Milwaukee Bucks, Rolla?
So Doc Rivers, and this is my opinion on Doc Rivers. If I had to describe his coaching career in one word, it would be failure. Because
he has a championship. I wouldn't say that his career is a failure.
Doc Rivers had a team with 3 Hall of Famers and won a championship.
He's had multiple teams with 3 Hall of Famers.
Exactly, but I'm saying that's how easy it was for him to win that chip. He had a team with Paul Pierce, Kevin Durant, and Rajon Rondo, and won a championship.
Paul Pierce, Kevin Durant?
Oh, sorry, Kevin Garnett.
I'm like, what the fuck team was that, bro? That's
yeah. No, he had a team with Paul Pierce, Kevin Garnett, and Rajon Rondo.
Yeah. Yes.
And that was, that at the time, that was one of probably the best team in the league. And obviously they won the chip. Yeah, and they won the chip. And that was his only time ever winning a chip. He had a Clippers team that was considered the best team in the league, and then he had a Sixers team that was also pretty much considered the best team in the league. And each time he has failed, he's collapsed every time. Every time he should be winning, he loses in the playoffs. He's a great regular season coach, but when it comes to the playoffs, he doesn't get it done, and he has failed every time. I don't understand how he keeps getting jobs so fast. What are the Bucks looking at? When you're hiring a candidate and you're looking at candidates to hire, you look at their resume. You see what they've done. And when you see Doc Rivers' resume and you see collapse after collapse after collapse after firing after firing, how do you just hire this dude so quickly? And unless they were kind of doing their hiring process before firing Adrian Griffin.
Well, that's the thing. Continue.
I just don't understand. Doc Rivers is not a good coach. The Bucks are gonna be great for the rest of the regular season. When it comes down to it, they're gonna get torched by any decent team in the playoffs. Doc Rivers just doesn't know how to make adjustments. He doesn't know how to analyze the game to decide which players should be playing at which time and make the right moves during the playoffs, because the playoffs it's a chess game between the coaches, usually, like in a series. And the team, usually with the better players, with the better coach, usually wins. But Doc Rivers, you could have the better players, but Doc Rivers will make sure your better team loses because he doesn't understand the game to a higher level than the other coach. And that's the issue I have with Doc Rivers. He's not a good coach, and the Bucks they Bucks fumbled completely hiring him. That's just how I feel.
Yeah. Well, here's my question for you, real quick: is
Yeah.
if it was the Bucks led by Doc Rivers in a series against the Celtics led by Jason Tatum, who you think every time he runs into a superstar he's going to fail, which one mitigates the other, and who's going to
Dude,
win that
I
series?
don't know. I think because Doc Rivers has so much experience in failure that he is going to lose to Jason Tatum.
Okay.
I think the Celtics would lose, or I think the Celtics would beat the Bucks because I think Doc Rivers is so determined to collapse. I think that'll overpower Giannis's determination to win.
Yeah, the lesser of two evils kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Well, okay. So my real quick 2 cents is I wouldn't necessarily say that I wouldn't put Doc's Celtics tenure as part of like the negative side of his resume. I think that they were a fantastic team, and they ran into an up and coming, or I mean, I wouldn't even say up and coming, but they ran into this powerhouse of a Miami team. And LeBron was, the best that he's ever been, arguably at that time, and he had Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh with him. They had a great team, and Eric Spoelstra was on the come up. I wouldn't necessarily blame him for that, but when it comes to the Clippers tenure, we had the Houston Rockets collapse where Josh Smith, Pablo Prigioni, Corey Brewer torched us into oblivion. And I'm not going to get too far into that because I'll spiral into a depression. But there was that collapse. We were up in the series, and the Houston Rockets take momentum of the series with James Harden on the bench. And then we have the bubble collapse where Doc Rivers, chose to play Montrezl Harrell over Ivica Zubac and put him on Nikola Jokic, and feasting,
Barbecue chicken,
feasting.
dude.
Yeah, licking my chops, as Pat Bev would say. But so there were multiple collapses with the Clippers. There was a brief time where Doc Rivers was not only the head coach, but he was also the GM or president of basketball operations. Mm-hmm. He wasn't able to build a strong bench. And it was pretty much just Jamal Crawford and sometimes Spencer Hawes, sometimes Big Baby chipping in. It was a detriment for us in the playoffs. Jamal Crawford can only do so much. So there were glaring issues that Doc Rivers had with the Clippers. And then you go and look at Philly, his time in Philly, he has, I've always said if Joel Embiid, A, didn't get hurt all the time, and B, didn't have to share the NBA with Nikola Jokic, I think that he would be the best big man in the league, and it wouldn't be close. But with Nikola Jokic being, probably the best, he'll be a top 3 center when all is said and done, most likely. Mm-hmm. I think that Joel Embiid doesn't get talked about as much, but he's got Joel Embiid. He's had a revolving door of star level players around him, and that wasn't able to get it. He wasn't able to get it done there either. And I just think that Doc Rivers' style of coaching, he's fantastic out of the timeouts. That's probably his biggest strength as a coach, aside from being just a player coach and being able to relate to players. Doc Rivers is fantastic at drawing up plays out of timeouts. He's won us so many regular season games, drawing up fantastic action out of timeouts. But I think that, his coaching style is a little passe because, he doesn't look to analytics to try and improve. He doesn't make adjustments. He's very much an eye test coach. And a lot of the things that he does don't come without any rhyme or reason because he just sees, hey, I just feel it in my gut. It took an Avery Bradley ankle injury for Shai Gilgeous to get any playing time. If Avery Bradley doesn't go down with an ankle injury, there's a chance that Shai Gilgeous is still a Clipper because he doesn't get to show off any of his skills. It's little things like that. He's kind of blind to the numbers game because he feels so strongly in his gut that it's one way and it's his way. And I think that you can't coach like that in today's NBA. There's too much proof in the numbers and too much proof in the analytics to not make certain adjustments. And I don't know. I think
I
bottom
mean,
line, I think the Bucks are probably gonna feel the wrath of this move going
yeah, I
forward. I
mean,
don't think it. Go ahead.
multiple players have said that multiple NBA players who have played under Doc has said that he does not make adjustments. He, like you said, he kind of plays off of his gut. So once another coach figures it out, or once another team or coach figures him out, he basically freezes. He basically just continues doing what he think. He's like, oh, I felt this
What
in
he
my gut.
thinks
Like
is
I
right.
feel like it's gonna work. I feel like it's gonna work. And the other team has already beaten him, and they're like, they know that he's not gonna make any adjustments, so they keep doing the same thing and keep beating him the same way. And that's how we collapsed against the Nuggets. They literally just did the same thing for like 3 games in a row. And that's the issue. Doc Rivers, he doesn't understand. He doesn't understand that. I feel like he doesn't recognize that when he's figured out, he needs to find a new solution. He believes that his solution is going to work every time. And that's the wrong mentality to have, because once it comes into the playoffs, you could win 2 games and you could win the first 2 games, and then your team gets figured out at the end of that second game, and then the next team wins the next 2 games, and like he would just continue doing the same thing for the next, I guess, 2 or 3 games, and lose
Yeah,
the series. That's what happened when he was on the Sixers for multiple playoff series, and that's what happened when he's on the Clippers. The issue with Doc Rivers is that he just, when it comes to the playoffs, and it's a 7 game series where you're playing the same team over and over and over again, and they can like make adjustments, figure out different players, push players to a certain way, push a coach to make certain moves. He just kind of falls into a trap
yeah,
that he sets for himself.
totally. No, I agree with all that, and we'll see what happens with the Bucks. But yeah, I think it's probably going to be more of the same. If history repeats
It's
itself,
unbelievable.
then I think that we're going to see it in real time when the playoffs come. But that is neither here nor there. Doc Rivers is far removed from the Clippers, and that's all we can say. Moving on, real quick, just wanted to touch on a couple other things. This is going to be quick. Just wanted to get it out there. Tristan Thompson has been suspended 25 games for violating the league's anti-drug
Mm-hmm.
program. He tested positive for ibutamoren and SARM LGD 4033, which sounds like a TV or some sort of robotics thing.
Mm-hmm.
SARM LGD 4033. I don't know what that is, but I'm assuming that it's probably some HGH, some growth hormone PED type thing. Tristan Thompson needs to retire. I think
Why is
that
he
this is
even still
probably
in the NBA, bro?
I don't know. I think this is probably the end of the line for good old TT. He can go and cheat on his partners and take
Yeah,
performance enhancing drugs on his own time
they were
now. Um,
they were saying he's cheating on his partners and cheating in the game, dude.
yeah, so there we go.
So
Tristan
he
Thompson
needs to go,
suspended
dude.
25 games. I think that his career's probably over. Anyway, moving on from that, uh, just wanted to really quick talk about the Grammy road trip. The Clippers start the Grammy road trip with 2 wins. For those of you that don't know, every year the Lakers and the Clippers have to forfeit the building over to allow the Grammys to set up, and so every year, every season, the Lakers and the Clippers usually go on an extended road trip. We have 7 games in 11 days, which is kind of brutal, but we've gotten off to a good start. So here's to continuing that. I'm very excited. I just wanted to say I'm very excited that we're probably, God willing, probably not going to have to do this shit anymore once we move to the Intuit Dome, unless Steve Ballmer
Mm-hmm.
has a hankering for hosting the Grammys at the Intuit
He
Dome, which
might.
I don't think he
He's a
will. He might,
businessman.
but he is a businessman. But let's just hope that we don't see any more of this shit next season when we move on. Um, one more thing I wanted, or sorry, 2 more things I wanted to touch on in what's going on. We're running a little bit over time, so we're going to keep this brief. Kawhi Leonard was, in my opinion, snubbed from the All Star starting lineup in the West. The starting lineup, I think, is LeBron James, Luka Doncic, Nikola Jokic, um, Shea Gilgeous, and who is Kevin Durant. Um, just based off of the team's records of all of the participants in this starting lineup, and based on just individual numbers and individual statistics, how many games Kawhi Leonard has played, I personally think that Kawhi Leonard should have been in that starting lineup uh, over Luka, probably over KD, both of which have records worse than the Clippers by a significant amount. LeBron James, he's always going to be the captain of the West. He's LeBron James. I
Yeah.
see it. Shea Gilgeous is having an MVP level year. I am happy to see him in that starting lineup. I think that he probably deserves to be there. And then Nikola Jokic is the best player in the league as it stands right now. So I see all of that. But yeah, man, I mean, Kawhi Leonard has spearheaded uh, the NBA's best record since December. And he's playing almost every game. He's looked fantastic on both ends of the floor. I think that he has one of the highest true shooting percentages in the league right now. He's playing both sides of the ball, so I don't know. It's the All Star game has become kind of a joke in my opinion with the voting and stuff like that. I love Kobe Brown, but Kobe Brown got like 3 All Star votes. I'm just curious who's voting on this shit. And I don't know.
Dude.
It's frustrating because like All Star voting and what, like if you make an All Star team, that falls on that can determine how much money you make in a future contract. And I don't know, man. I just think we need to be better. Whoever's voting needs to be better at getting these guys in the All Star game, or maybe not getting certain guys in the
Mm,
All Star game. I don't know. What do you think, Rilla?
yeah, I think. Well, personally, I don't really give a fuck about like the money or the contract or whatever. They still get paid millions of dollars either way. But
That's
I
true.
will say that I think it matters because I feel like the fans want to see the best player, and these are not. Obviously, you're going to be biased to your specific team that you're a fan of, but I feel like fans of the sport want to see the best players in the season play against each other. Um, I think that Kawhi has been one of the best players this season, but I don't think that if he realistically would get the vote, the starting vote over uh, someone like Shea, who's having an MVP type season.
Well,
Obviously
Shea,
not
I think
LeBron.
is I can see Shea, LeBron, and
You know,
Jokic. I can see.
Jokic is reigning MVP. Or I guess he was reigning 2 years ago, but he's still one of the best players in the league. Most people would say he's the best player in the league. And then the only person I could see Kawhi starting over is Kevin Durant, and that's a tough person
Not
to
Luca.
get. I don't think so because Luka. I mean, the thing about him is when you look at his statistics, and even though Kawhi's team is doing significantly better than Luka's than the Mavs, it is the All Star is a single player award or a single player voting, not for the team. So I believe that Luka's numbers are significantly better than Kawhi's. I think he does a little bit more offensively, and that's what most people are going to focus on the offensive game than Kawhi does. And so I think he's always going to get that over Kawhi because I think for the rest of Luka's career, he's always going to have better numbers offensively than Kawhi just because he does so much
Yeah.
for his team.
Hmm.
But I think that even though Kevin Durant's numbers are a little bit better than Kawhi's this season, I think that Kawhi, like you said, he has done more to winning for his team than I think Kevin Durant has. So that's why I think it's a little bit unfair, but I don't think the snub is as egregious just because though that starting five is hard to beat. That's those 5 players are hard to get outvoted or it's hard to outvote. Kevin Durant,
Yeah.
like we were just mentioning, is one of the greatest players of all time, not in the GOAT conversation, obviously, but he's most people would put him top 20, and
Yeah.
I feel like Kawhi isn't on that level yet, where most people would put him top 20 of all time. So
I would.
it's just one of, I would also, but it's just the average NBA fan I feel like wouldn't, and the average NBA fan would put Kevin Durant in top 20. And I think that's the issue, is that there's so, and I don't want to say even politics, but like you said, those top three, those three players, Jokic, Shea, and LeBron, are always going to take those spots. So now you have two spots for the rest of the West. That's hard to get. So I think it is what it is. I think Kawhi and Paul George are still going to be all stars this season. I don't know about James Harden. I think like I said, the politics are going to make it so James Harden doesn't, because they were talking so much shit about him earlier this season. But
Right.
that doesn't matter. All that matters to us is winning the chip, or at least that's all that matters to me. I don't care if Kawhi, Paul George, and James Harden don't make an All Star. As long as we win the chip at the end of the season, I'm happy.
Here's to that. I will agree with you on that. Clipper Nation, let us know what you think in the comments, or get at us on what you think about this, what I feel to be an all-star snub, starter snub for Kawhi Leonard. It's obviously a very polarizing topic, but there's a lot of ways to look at it. But yeah, I just really quick wanted to get into some
Mm.
monster performances throughout the league before we head into recaps. The league is in good hands. And most of these guys are under the age of 30. Some of them under the age of 25. But Luka dropping 73 in a win against the Hawks. Karl Anthony Towns dropping 62 in a loss to the Hornets. Devin Booker dropping 62 in a loss to the Pacers. And Joel Embiid dropping 70 in a win against the Spurs. All of this happening within the last 7 days. Some absolute monster performances offensively from some of the league's best. I think I know the answer to this, Rolla, but I mean, is this the most talented the league has ever been? Just you have
Of
guys
course.
putting up these numbers on a night to night basis. I think that the skill and the talent in the NBA has never been higher, and the proof's in the
Hmm.
pudding. These are crazy numbers
Of
from these guys,
course.
and some of them came in losses, which just shows
Yeah.
the other side, of the other team and how talented they are too. So
Of course. I've said this many times. I think the average star in the NBA is more talented than Michael Jordan ever was. Just because I think the skill level is so extremely high these days, especially with guys like Steph Curry, who has changed the game. And now these kids are growing up shooting half court shots and
yeah,
hitting them cash. You see Damian Lillard hitting step back or sidestep deep threes to send teams home, and we see that skill level basically skyrocket, the shooting skill level, and then the handle skill level. And I think that players are way more athletic than they ever were in today's NBA, and I think the skill level is way higher than it ever was in the NBA. So I don't think it's surprising that we're seeing these players drop 60 plus, 70 plus points in a game. But also, I think that I kind of want to go off on a tangent just a little bit. I saw a clip earlier this week where I don't know if it was a game from earlier this week, but it was from Patrick Beverley's podcast. And after a game, Wendell Carter Jr. had said, well, Patrick Beverley had, talked shit on Twitter, and then Wendell Carter Jr. said something along the lines of,
I did. I
um,
did see that.
Patrick Beverley, like, we don't care about Patrick Beverley. He scored 5 points. And Patrick Beverley listened to that over, and he was like, yeah, I scored 5 points, but I got 2 blocks, 10 rebounds, 6 assists, and a win. I'd rather have 5 points and get all those stats in a win than get 20 points in a loss, or 25 or 30 in a loss. And that's the thing is, sure, it's great that these players are dropping 62 points, but I think that they need to recognize that it's great dropping 62 points, but what's the point of dropping 62 in a loss?
Yeah.
And that's,
Well, Chris Finch,
it's
the Minnesota coach, was
was
after their
raging over
game was
that.
saying, yeah,
Yeah,
he said that we played an immature brand of basketball, and um, you know, uh, yeah, I don't know. I agree. I agree.
it's like in the regular season, it doesn't matter. It's one game out of 82. But if this happens in the playoffs, like, that could that could
Cost
lose
you a
you a
series.
playoff game. That could cost you a series. So, and I think I think these players are smart enough to understand that and understand that it is just one game. It is just one game, one loss. But like the Timberwolves coach was saying, that is kind of an immature brand of basketball to see. But
Yeah.
I mean, as a fan, I love seeing these high scoring games. I love seeing these professional players play at the peak of their ability because at the end of the day, that's what we want to see as a fan. That's why we watch the NBA.
Yeah, well, that's just the thing is like as a fan, I think we're just really blessed in the talent that we're witnessing night in and night out.
Mm-hmm.
Just from basketball head standpoint, this is the best. This is the most fun I've had watching just basketball in general. And I think the best is yet to come. But yeah, I think that does it for what's going on. We're gonna bust right into. We're gonna we're gonna go right
Pause.
into. Yeah, we're gonna go right into recaps, and then we're gonna go into previews, and then we'll have hot take, shot take to finish off the show. But first game of the games we wanted to talk about. First game of a 5-game win streak for the Clippers was a 125-114 win against the Nets. This was probably one of my favorite, if not my favorite, wins of the year, just because of how locked in we were down the stretch. The Nets gave us a very difficult game. We were down at one point, and basically, to keep it short and sweet, the Clippers going a 27-10 run, a 22-0 run late in the fourth, spearheaded by Kawhi, and we ended up pulling out the win. It was one of the craziest fourth quarter comebacks that I've seen this season. Kawhi finished the game with 21, but he hit some gigantic shots down the stretch. Quieter game from Paul George, but 24 from James Harden, 13 from Mann. Terrence Mann is having a great stretch, and 23 from
Mm-hmm.
Russell Westbrook. I think that Russ has played some of his best basketball of the season this last 3 games. Gave
Of
us
course.
gave us everything that he had, and honestly, game ball should probably go to Russ. He just kept attacking, set the tone. He was a plus 22 in the plus minus.
Dang.
Russ was absolutely fantastic this game. Really set the tone. Had, yeah, like I said, 23 points off the bench. Really rallied us back into it, and you could see the Nets kind of unraveling down the stretch. I think in the last couple minutes, the ball was kicked out to Nick Claxton in the corner, who had hit 1 3 up to this point in the season, and he took it and bricked it. And I think that that just kind of showed, that was a microcosm of kind of how the Nets were scrambling down the stretch in what was a gigantic haymaker from the Clippers in the fourth. What did you like the
I think we
most
went.
from this game?
I think we went 22-5 at the end of to end the game, which is
I think it was
unbelievable.
22-0.
But
I think that
was it
I
22
think
0?
that yeah, I believe that we finished out the game 22-0.
Hmm.
Pretty
Okay.
positive.
Well, I mean, it was unbelievable to hear. I didn't really get a chance to see this because we were filming the podcast at the time, but I remember last week I was saying I wasn't too worried about because we were down by I think we were down by like around 20 or 15 or something like that, and I think one thing with this Clipper team is I feel very comfortable with them. Even if we're down by 20, I feel comfortable to say that this is a team that can erase any lead that any team has on us. They, I mean, we have been playing so well in fourth quarters that for me, if your team is not up by 25 plus on us, I wouldn't feel comfortable being that other team going into the fourth quarter
Totally.
because with scorers like James Harden who can hit step back threes, can create his own shot, score on his own time. We have Paul George who can get hot very quick in a hurry. And then we have Kawhi who can get to his spots, hit his mid ranges, hit his open threes, his step back threes even sometimes. And with those three players on the court at the same time for an entire fourth quarter, I just, as another team, I feel uncomfortable seeing those guys with the balls just basically passing it like amongst each other. So when it comes to teams like the Nets, those like second tier teams, who else? Who else? For example, like the I don't want to even like consider them a second tier team, but like the Pacers or like uh, those like second tier teams that aren't really going to make it deep in the playoffs, if not the like if they even make it to the playoffs.
Yeah.
I feel like completely comfortable knowing that like our team is going to destroy them and get the win, and I think that's we've been seeing the last couple of weeks.
Well, that's just it. I mean, last season, I don't think that we would have won this game. Being down going into the fourth, we weren't necessarily a fourth quarter team last year and in years past. But like
Mm-hmm.
you said, I feel comfortable taking back the momentum and stopping the bleeding in these late game situations, and we got the win for it. 22-0 in the last 5 minutes of the game is pretty incredible, and
Yeah,
we got big performances all across the board. Kawhi put the game away with 2 3-pointers. There was a Norm fast break dunk, and Paul George, who had struggled a little bit on offense, was incredible on defense down the stretch. Ty Lue coached a great game. He went small in that fourth quarter, and put Paul George in situations where he was really able to succeed defensively, guarding some of their
mm-hmm.
bigs. So that was a great win. And then moving on to the Lakers, the hallway series, which was actually, I think, technically the first game of the road trip, the Grammy road trip. It was an away game, I believe, for the. Oh no, you know what? No, it was a home game. So never mind, scratch that.
Yeah, it was a
But
home game.
basically, a very sloppy game, both sides for most of this game. But the Clippers ended up getting it done. Kawhi Leonard, who, like I said, probably should have made the All-Star team starting lineup, was fantastic in this game. Had the second triple double of his career. Had 11
Yeah,
rebounds, 10 assists, 25 points. He put on a masterclass in this one. James Harden chipped in with 23. Paul George was okay in this one, particularly down the stretch with 17. 16 from Russ, another big game from Russ. Hit I think he was 3 for 3 from three. So he was really lighting it up against his former team. You see it on Russ's face every time he plays against this Laker team. He really, really wants to win. And Norman Powell was 17 off the bench as well. Those two guys have been absolutely holding it down, coming off
yeah,
the bench. And yeah, it's always great to take a win against the Lakers. Like I said, this was a sloppier game. The Lakers were kind of starting to get that momentum back. Anthony Davis had 26. D'Angelo Russell, who's been playing incredible since
yeah.
the trade rumors have come to light, ended up dropping 27. Lakers were without LeBron James. I think we might have been in trouble if LeBron James ended up playing this one, just because of how sloppy it was, and it really was. There was no defense being played for most of this game, but Clippers find a way to take the win. Like I said, Kawhi Leonard was absolutely exceptional, and ended up finishing the game with a triple double. Anything you wanted to touch on with this one, Rolla?
Yeah, I watched this game, and I think one thing, I personally, I didn't think it was that sloppy, but I think that was mainly just because we didn't really take them seriously because they were
Well, that's
without
just it.
LeBron, and we kind of were just slacking on defense and just kind of hitting our shots, and then down the stretch once they started to come back a little bit, I think that's when we turned it up. But I gotta say that Terrence Mann has really been balling his ass off recently, and I
The
thought that was
real
like
ones
my one
knew. The real ones
takeaway.
knew this was
Well, of
coming.
course. I mean,
17 points from Terrence.
if you're a Clipper fan, you've known. You if you haven't known, then you live under a rock. But I mean, the other NBA fandom don't really know about Terrence Mann as much, other than that 39-point game in the playoffs that one year. But as a Clipper fan, if you're not riding with Terrence Mann, then I don't really know what to tell you because the dude is special, and everyone's known that. But he has been really balling his ass off. This recently, he's been hitting his open threes. He's been keeping us in games. He's been,
Offensively, he's been great.
yeah,
Yeah,
motivating the team a little bit more than he was earlier this season. So I was pretty excited to see him ball out.
absolutely. Yeah, no, uh, that's the thing is, Terrence Mann was shooting some ridiculously low percentage from three for the first half or the first part of this season. I think he was shooting like 19% or 20% or something like that. And that it's just not just not who he is. I mean, he's not a sniper per se, but he will hit those open threes, and some even contested. He's great at getting to the rim. He offers so much, and yeah, his three ball is starting to fall. I think with him, it was a lot of confidence. And you can see that he's starting to get that confidence. He's taking more threes. He's making more threes. So, yeah, hell of a game from Terrence as well. And he continues that great play moving forward. And there's a reason why he's in the starting lineup. The Clippers are so much better when he is doing exactly what he's great at, and he has been so far. The third game of this stretch and the third win of this stretch came against the Toronto Raptors, 127-107. Get a 20-point win. James Harden led the way in this one. Russ was fantastic, as he has been this last little stretch. But yeah, James Harden led the way with 22 points. And sorry, there's some sounds playing on in the background. I'm having some technical difficulties. Rolla, you want to take over real quick?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I feel like this is when I was talking about tier 2 teams. This Raptors team is a tier 2 team to me. It's a team where I feel like comfortable that we can win. I feel like if we start the game and I turn on the game midway through, I'm expecting to see us winning. Or if I turn it on in the fourth quarter, I'm expecting to see us up by 15 to 20 points, and that's exactly what happened. This is a good Raptors team. They have good players, but I don't think that they're anywhere near our level, and I don't think that we should be allowing them to be anywhere near our level. It's one of those games where I feel like it should be over by the third quarter. Our stars should be chilling on the bench midway through the fourth quarter at the very least, and I think that's something that happened.
Yeah, no, totally. I was able to pull it up, and just technical difficulties stopped. So, 22 from James Harden. Actually, James Harden had a triple double. 22, 13 assists, and 10 rebounds. James Harden really led the way. 27 plus 27 in the plus minus. Paul George had a good game. 6 for 15 from the floor. 21 points. Added 2 blocks. And like I said, Russ with 20 off the bench. Russ set the tone again in this one. Paul George was a little bit off to start the game, but he ended up coming in clutch for us. And I think Russ was a big part of that. Russ made sure that just showing it on the floor and showing it with his aggression that we were never going to lose this game. And, he was a big part of willing us to this win. A quieter game from Kawhi Leonard, 16 points, but, he provided 7 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 blocks. This game was a pretty comfortable win. Norm goes off in the fourth quarter with 5 straight to put the game away. Ended up finishing the game with 17. Scotty Barnes had a good game, 23 points. RJ Barrett had a pretty good game, 22 points. But yeah, this game was never really in question. And like I said, Norm put it away in the 5th, and it's great to see again late game execution from one of our better clutch players, Norman Powell, and the fact that we have him coming off the bench is just such a luxury.
Yeah.
Moving on to what was probably just in terms of my favorite win was still the OKC Thunder game, but my God, this Celtics game was probably the best win of the season, just in terms of the Celtics being at the time 35-10. They're 20-2 at home. They were 20-1 at home prior to this. Fantastic home advantage for the Celtics. Celtics fans are loud. Celtics fans are diehard fans. But we put this game away. At the half, I think we led by 16, 17, something like that. We come out of the half. Jason Tatum goes on a 7-0 run. Looks like he's about to get the team back into it, but a put back by Terrence Mann and a drawn charge by Paul George, and it was all Clippers from there. We put the hammer down in the third and in the fourth, but the game was already over in the third. The Clippers lead was 36 at one point. And this was not a great shooting game from the Celtics. It was the lowest percentage that they shot in a first half. I think they shot below 30% from the floor going into halftime, which is, like I said, the lowest that they've ever shot in this season in a first half. They were missing some open shots, but the Clippers defense was the best that I've seen it in a while. The offense has kind of been there for the Clippers, but the defense has kind of been middle of the pack, but not in this game. We were scrambling. We were covering a ton of ground on defense, getting out to open shooters, making sure that we closed out. This was a fantastic game. I think Kawhi, Terrence, and Daniel Tice really led the way in this one. Kawhi looked incredible. Had a poster dunk on Luke Cornett. Yeah, this game was just incredible across the board, and we took a win against one of the toughest opponents that we've faced this season. Last time we played against them, they absolutely destroyed us. Almost won by like 40 or 30 or something like that. And it was a statement game. Up until the third, the Stars played heavy minutes. Luckily we were so far ahead that the Stars pretty much rested the entire fourth. But on the second night of a back-to-back too, this was incredible. What was your biggest takeaway from this one, Rolla, besides the fact that we absolutely dominated pretty much from jump to finish?
My biggest takeaway is that we're the best team in the league. Period.
Yeah.
I've been thinking this for a minute. But this is. I think we have to roll through all of the I guess I don't want to say the bigger teams, but all of the tier 1 teams, like this for for the rest of the league to kind of get the memo. They've kind of in power rankings they've kind of been putting us up there top 5, top 3 or whatever. But no one's really putting us in that number 1 spot yet. I personally think we've been in that number 1 spot for weeks now, but record wise we're not there yet. So that's kind of one thing that I feel like we have to really, really fight for. Where it looks like we're taking the regular season very, very, very seriously this year, which I love to see.
It's been beautiful to see. Yeah,
it's been, and I've been enjoying the ride so far. Obviously, outside of that losing streak we had to start the season, but I mean this Celtics team, I didn't even the last time when they destroyed us. I just don't think that they're a team that can beat us in a 7-game series. They're a team that I think would be a treat, would be a sweet treat, would be barbecue chicken, bro, would be buffalo chicken if we were to see them in
all
the finals.
kinds of chicken. Huh?
This would be, if we saw them in the finals, this would be max 6 games.
You think
I just don't think that they're on our level. I don't think it's even close. I don't think they have a superstar that can take them there. Obviously, I've had my rant about Jason Tatum.
Oh yeah,
I'm not able to pull up the stats right now. Actually, I might be.
Jason Tatum ended up finishing the game with 21.
I'm not able to pull up the stats right now,
but
he had 21. What about assists and boards? Do you
had 1 assist, 11 rebounds, but I think the biggest thing was we took the rest of the team out of the game too. I mean, obviously they didn't have Porzingis, which is a pretty big loss for them, but their second leading scorer was Peyton Pritchard with 12. So it kind of just really showed how, not only were they cold, but we really didn't give them, we made them work for everything. Like I said, Jason Tatum went on a 7-0 run to start the third, but Terrence Mann got a putback. And Paul George drew a charge on him, and it was smooth sailing after that. It was incredible. It was incredible to watch. Terrence Mann, speaking of which, had another great game, 50% from the floor, 14 points. He was big on the glass. I mean, it doesn't show in the stat sheet, 6 rebounds, but I think the whole team really chipped in on the glass too, and not having Ivica Zubac, that's so important.
I've been saying this. I've been saying this for years. This team is capable of getting boards by committee, and even though Zubac is great because we can getting board. I mean, we saw Paul George get injured last year, trying to get a board. Getting boards is a liability. Your stars can get injured, but at the same time, I've always believed that we have a tall team, we have a big team. They can get boards over a lot of other teams, and so that was one thing that was always frustrating to me, to see them not really fight for boards previously. It's just lovely. This is a completely different Clippers team, I feel like, than in previous years. We're really putting in the effort in the regular season, and I hope this continues into the postseason.
Yeah, totally. And the sentiment, you can just see it on Twitter too. The sentiment from Clippers fans, that's just it. Is this is a different Clippers team than we've
Mhm.
seen, particularly in the 2-1-3 era. I mean, I think, Lob City and Pryor included, this is the most dominant Clippers team that we've ever seen. Just in terms of star power, in terms of late game execution. Ty Lue has been coaching a fantastic season so far, with everything being considered. Yeah, I mean, we are, there's a level of seriousness, like you said, that we haven't really seen in years past, in the regular season, particularly. I mean, we know what we're going to get if we stay healthy in the playoffs, but the regular season is important. And we are, I think, a game and a half, if not 2 games, back from the 1 seed. And, the Clippers haven't finished, I think in the 2-1 era, we haven't. No, actually, I think we were the second seed, I think, in the bubble or something like that. But it was a weird season. We need to start taking the regular season seriously, and our stars have been
Mhm.
playing. It's been a joy to see. And, we've been the best team, in my opinion, for about a month and a half in the league. So here's to keeping that up. Here's to staying healthy, and hopefully when Zoo comes back, he doesn't skip a beat, because he's been fantastic pretty much the whole season as
Facts.
well. So we could really use him hitting the ground running. We're running a little bit over time, so I'm just gonna bust right through. I keep saying that.
Pause.
We're gonna roll right into we're gonna roll right into the previews here. We have a 4-game stretch coming up, all of which are away games, I believe, part of that Grammy trip coming up. So we got a jam-packed schedule coming up in this upcoming week. We have the Cleveland Cavaliers, who have been playing really, really good basketball,
Yeah.
coming up tomorrow. They're the third in the league in scoring, kind of middle of the pack and everything else aside from rebounding, which they're seventh. They don't have Darius Garland, they don't have Evan Mobley, but Donovan Mitchell's he can give you 40, 45, 50.
Mhm.
So we got to lock him down. They got some size with Jared Allen. They don't have Tristan Thompson, obviously, but I don't think he was going to be much of a factor anyway. I think this is a game, particularly the way that we handled the Celtics and the confidence that we probably have going into this game. This is one that we can come out and win, but I think we need to be serious.
Mhm.
The Cavaliers are no joke. They play really tough. They have a ton of athleticism. They got guys that can defend, and they got guys that love to shoot the 3 ball. So make sure you keep eyes on Donovan Mitchell, and I think the rest will come. So I think this is a win that we can take. The next 2 games are wins that I think, as long as they're not trap games, I think that we can get these wins pretty comfortably. We have the Washington Wizards, led by Jordan Poole and Kyle Kuzma, 2 of the more
Who's is
unserious
good, bro?
players in the league, but they can go and get you buckets. So, I think if we handle this game with some professionalism and some seriousness, we can get this win pretty easily. They're not a good team. 8-37 on the season, 14th in the
Yep.
East. Uh, this is a win that we can go out and get, but you gotta set the tone in this one, because Jordan Poole and Kyle Kuzma are very gifted offensively, and they can get you buckets and bunches. So if we come in and set the tone like we have been, this is one that we can get pretty comfortably. And then we have the Detroit Pistons. I feel bad for the Pistons. They got a lot of guys that I really like, but they have not been able to figure it out this season. 5 wins on the season, 5-40, 15th in the East. Um, if we lose this one, I think something horrible, extremely horrible, would have happened. Um, I'm not trying to disrespect the Pistons, but this is a win that we need to get, and I think that we can get pretty easily. It's going to be a long road trip, so I think if we can handle this one going into the half, play Bones, play Kobe Brown, play Jordan Miller. If we had Musa Diabate healthy, play him, but obviously we don't, with a broken hand. Put these guys away going into the half, and I think kind of coast throughout the second half and give our stars some rest. I think the toughest game that we have in this stretch is going to be against the Miami Heat. Their record doesn't really show what they can do. They're seventh in the East, 24
Mhm.
and 22, middle of the pack in everything really, except for scoring, which they're seventh in. Actually, no, excuse me, they're seventh in defense, seventh in opposing points per game. Um, Tyler Hero is having the best season of his career. Got to watch out for him. They have a great rookie in Jaime Jaquez. Bam Adebayo is one of the most underrated bigs in the league. He can get you solid minutes on both sides of the ball. He's a great shot blocker, and he can pass that ball. Got good touch around the rim. And then they have Terry Rozier. They made a trade for Terry Rozier a couple of days ago. Terry is having probably his best season of his career. Was having his best season of his career with the Hornets, and he's been playing pretty good, pretty well in the 2 games that he's played as a member of the Miami Heat. This is one we got to take seriously, not only because of the personnel that they have on the floor, but because Eric Spoelstra is such a fantastic coach that he can find ways to punish you as well. I think that as far as coaching prowess, him and Ty Lue are probably about equal. So I think this will be a great coaching battle. I'm going to come out and say it. I think that we can go 4-0 in this stretch, extend our win streak to, what would it be, 9, and come out of the Grammy trip unscathed. But we got to be serious. And, I don't have any doubt that we will be, considering the way that we played, particularly against this Boston Celtics team that we just faced. What's your prediction as far as record in this 4-game stretch, Rolla?
I agree. I think we can go 4-0. I don't see any reason why we wouldn't. I think most of our opponents are pretty, I don't want to say easy, but they should be pretty smooth.
We should be better than them.
Yeah,
we should be better.
It shouldn't take too much effort to win a couple of those games. So
this one's going to be the toughest one, but I think
that this one
totally it's going to be the toughest one, I think. But I think that we can come out and take a win. So here's to going 4-0 in this stretch. It would be awesome. We might even be the second seed in the West by the end of that. Like I said in last week's podcast, I think by the end of February, we'll be at least the second seed in the West, right behind the OKC Thunder, who are currently the number 1 seed. So here's to that. We're going to jump right into hot take, shot take, and then we are going to close out this episode. We will be right back after this. All right, guys, we are back. We are going to jump right into hot take, shot take. Rolla is going to be sitting this one out. He is going to abstain on this fine Sunday morning.
Yep.
But I am here to tell you, with a shot of Old Faithful, that I think this is scalding. This is scalding hot.
Go on.
I'm on my Stephen A right now. I'm going to come out and say it. We already touched on it early on in the show and what's going on. We've had some fantastic scoring outputs by, some of the league's best 70-point games, 73-point games. I'm here to tell you, watch out, Wilt the Stilt. Someone is going to surpass the 100-point total in a single game in this season. I don't even know if Wilt did this. All we have, we don't need.
You should have the box scores, dude.
Dude, we don't have the box. I don't even know if we have the box score. All we have is Wilt Chamberlain holding up a piece of paper with 100. He might have been just even holding up. I don't know. I don't know where I'm going with this, but basically, all we have is this picture of Wilt Chamberlain holding up a piece of paper with 100 points drawn on it. I don't know what that means. Might not have even been regarding points. So what I'm saying is that somebody in the NBA is going to score more than 100 points this season. You heard it here first. I don't know who it's going to be, but I know that it's going to happen. 100 points. I'm going to say 103. Someone's going to go for 103. Yeah. They've got players have gotten a little taste of 70, 73. Yeah. They're going to want more. So here's to that, down the hatch. 103 points from someone in the league.
I don't think it's personally. I don't think it's possible.
Why?
But, well, I'll tell you why.
Let's hear it.
I think that if it were to be possible, it would have to be an overtime plus game. I don't think that 100 points can be scored in a regular game, just because I don't know. Just because I feel like players just don't want that as much. Luka just dropped 73, but I feel like that was so much effort, and I don't think that's something he'll ever want to do again. So
you know what?
I don't know. I don't know who's capable of it. I don't know who's capable of it. Maybe Devin
I'm
Booker,
so confident that I'm so confident that this is going to happen. I'm going to take another one.
Damn, dude.
At 11:56 Pacific Standard Time, Nicholas Beck-Jacobs is taking 2 shots to confidently say that someone in the NBA is going to be scoring over 100 points and beat Wilt Chamberlain's record for points scored in a game. Cheers to that. Guys,
You know who
get
I think
at
is
me
going
on
to do
Twitter
it?
once it happens.
You know who I think is going to do it is Luke Kennard, bro. I'm thinking he's got the spirit. He hits 15 threes in a row.
I will not be taking a shot to that. I don't think it's going to be Luke Kennard. But yeah, it's going to happen. Get at me on Twitter. Let me know that I'm a genius because I've seen it in the stars. So yeah, Rolla, you're as I said, Rolla's going to abstain. So we are done with Hot Take, Shot Take on this episode 14 of the Clip Service podcast. And I think that about does it, guys. We're running a little bit over time, so we're going to call it on that. We're going to get out of here and get to our Sundays. Rolla's got some football to watch. So, yeah. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We so appreciate it. Episode 14, we are hitting the ground running. We're really happy to be doing this, guys. So thank you so much for tuning in and supporting us. Follow us when you can. Subscribe. Comment, let us know what you think of the podcast. Let us know how we can improve. Let us know what we're doing right. Yeah, you can follow us on Spotify, Instagram, Twitter. You can listen to us on Deezer, Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts. Check us out on YouTube. And yeah, thank you guys so much. Here's to going undefeated in the Grammy Trip. The Clippers are the best team in the league in my eyes, and I'm sure Rolla agrees.
Easily.
So hopefully we continue that. And the championship run in this fine season continues. Thank you so much, and as always, let's go Clips.
Go Clips. Thank you, guys.